Hey guys, today I'm going to give you a brief introduction to joining. I know we've looked at this a little bit in class, but I wanted to make sure you guys had a demo you could look at to see how it works. We're going to look at two different sort of toy data sets here. We're going to look at the one table which contains Facebook government requests to Facebook. So it contains the number of requests from various governments for information about their that each government's citizens from Facebook. This is a number that Facebook publishes. I've cleaned it up just a little bit here for our purposes, but there are basically four fields in this data. There's the country, the total requests, the users, the number of accounts requested, and the percentage of requests where some data was produced. So you can see the first row is United States. We have a value of 11,000 requests for data on 20,000 users. And the next record is the United Kingdom with 1,975 requests for data on 2,337 users. Facebook is saying 68% of those requests were granted. Then we have a bunch of other countries. I think there's about 71 total in here. Just showing you the top few, and this is in this file, which is again available to download through the syllabus. The other file that you can also pull off the syllabus has the number of Facebook users by country. I think this is just Wikipedia data. It's very simple, straightforward stuff. Country and FB users, number of Facebook users. So United States with about 166 million people using Facebook, in India, Brazil, Indonesia, etc. So let me just get rid of this first. So just bear with me while I just start from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do here, just for this purpose, is create a schema that we'll call government requests. That's where we're going to stash the data. And then, you can see here, if I hit refresh, we've now got it. And then just to make sure that we are pointing at it properly, I'm going to use the use government request syntax. And I'm going to just give you guys this SQL file that I'm working with here, so you can just run these commands yourself. But what we're going to do is just create these tables manually and then use MySQL syntax to import the data directly out of the CSV files that we have up there. This is just a quick way of doing this, and it makes sure that you guys can just get the same thing that I'm getting here, but just if you're interested in exploring this a little more, it's useful commands. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my first table for the FB requests, Facebook requests. In there we're going to have the country, the number of requests, the numbers of accounts requested, and the percent of time that data is produced. So the country is obviously a varchar, and I'm just giving it length 40 because I don't think there's any countries which are longer than 40 characters long in the data. The requests are an int. Accounts requested are an int, and the percent data produced in this data is actually also an int. So and just go ahead and run this create table syntax here, and I like to highlight it, I don't know, habit. And now we should have over here on the government requests table a government request schema table called FB requests, which has in it the columns that we just specified. So then I'm going to use this new syntax here, which I'm going to introduce you to. So don't worry too much about this. And again, this is just posted online so you can see it. If you want to just copy it and paste it into your SQL and run it, it should work fine. The only thing you'll need to change is where we're pointing to. So in this case, I'm pointing to the directory in my computer where this first file is located. You'll need to change that if you download this file to point to the proper place. What this does is it just puts this file into my FB requests table that I've just created and specifies a few things. The field is a comma separated file, so the fields are terminated by commas. If there are quotes in the data, just sometimes stick that in there. Don't actually need it in this case, I don't think, but sometimes, as we've talked about, comma separated files have quotes around fields. And then we have this lines terminated by thing. This is just says the end of the line is a /n, which is computer code for end of line. So generally you can get away with this syntax, it'll work fine. And then ignore one lines just means we're going to ignore the first field, the first row of the data, which in both cases is the header row. We don't want to import the header row a second time because we've already specified the headers with our create table syntax. So we don't need to worry about the header. So ignore one lines just tells this import script to skip the first line. So I'll go ahead and run that. And now if I look in my Facebook requests table, it's now got all the data that was in that CSV file. That's just a really simple way to kind of store your, your work so that you know exactly how this data got in here. Sometimes that's very useful. Now we will also create a table called FB users, which is the other file that we've got. So I'm just going to run this, and this is now exactly the same syntax, but I'm now pointing it at the other CSV file. Otherwise, it's exactly the same, and I'm putting it into FB users now instead of FB requests. So we can just go ahead and run this, and now we can look at FB users, and we can see all of it worked. We have 213 rows in our FB users table, and looking back here, we had 71 rows in our FB requests table. So just another way of getting data into MySQL. So now let's look again at the FB request table here. Now we have these values that look interesting. So one thing we might do in looking at this is we might select everything from FB requests and order it by who had the most accounts requested. Which government requested the most information, the information on the most number of people. Oops, I forgot to include descending, so we want to order it by most, not least. And the answer is the United States had a whopping 4 times as many, well, more than 4 times as many users requested than the next highest jurisdiction, which is India. The UK is up there pretty high, Italy, Germany, France, Brazil, on down. And you can see the numbers get smaller and smaller as we go down here. Now we're less than 100 accounts are requested in these from these countries. So one might be tempted to say, oh wow, well the United States is the worst. They request information on more citizens than any other government. Well, let's again just think about that. So sure, the United States does request information on a lot of people, a lot more people than any other country, obviously. But how does that compare to, say, the number of people using Facebook in the United States? So let's just take a quick look. Star from FB users. We're going to select everything from FB users, order by, and now I think, what do we call it? FB. Let me go up and check. I don't remember what I called the field. I'm recording this video a little late. Sorry, guys. So we called it FB users. Brilliant. So I'm going to select star from FB users, order by FB users, descending. And what do I get? Okay, well, look. Interesting. So kind of starts to line up a little like what we saw in the number of requests, right? Remember when we looked at requests, the United States had the most requests, followed by India. About 4 times as many requests in the United States and India. But look at that. The population of Facebook users in the United States is also the most in the world. And I wouldn't say quite 4 times as many as India, but it's quite a bit more than the next highest country's population of Facebook users. So it may not be fair to point the finger at the United States immediately and say, oh, well, the United States has the absolute worst track record with this. But it might be. We want to find out how to answer this question. So we're going to put these numbers together and see what we get. So the syntax for that, for pulling information from 2 different tables, is we've already kind of gone over this in class, but it's the join keyword. So I'm now taking this from being select star from FB requests and select star from FB users. Now I'm doing select star from, and I'm going to start with FB requests. Then I give it a name, A, because I'm going to need to refer to it again. So you can call it anything you want. In fact, for you guys, this first time around, I'm going to take that name off so this is super clear what we're doing here. FB requests and FB users. So now what we're saying is this syntax means select star from FB request, select everything from FB request, and then join that to FB users on this syntax where the FB request, the country in FB requests is equal to the country in FB users. Make sense? Kind of, sort of. Let's see what the results are. If I run that now, I essentially have my two tables that I had before kind of slapped together here. So you see now I've got the United States, and then I've got the United States again. I've got two country fields. Here's the information from table number 1, which was FB requests. Here's the information from table number 2, FB users. They are joined together, and I can scroll down here and they are locked in place like this. So I now have matching records here for most countries. I've been able to pair out information here and get it. So just like that. So now the syntax that we're looking at there, join, allows us to basically bring these two tables together. But what it does is it makes sure there's a match. If there's no match, we don't get a result. So look at these numbers down here. When we look at select star from FB requests, right, when we pull everything from FB requests, which we did here, we got back 71 rows. When we selected everything from FB users, we got back 213 rows. Now when we did select star from FB requests, join FB users on the FB request country is equal to the FB users country, we got back 69 rows. So 71, 213, and 69. What's going on there? Why didn't we get back? What should we have gotten back? What do we expect to get back? Some of you might have expected to get back 213, 71 maybe, but 69? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Well, let's explore the syntax of join a little bit and see if we can figure out what's going on. So join actually comes in a couple of different flavors. I'm going to retype this here. The first join, the most basic join, is what we just saw, which is just join between both tables and only include cases where we got back records from both. So when we just say the word join, we're saying only give me back the cases where there's a record in FB requests and where there's a record in FB users. That is not optimal because, as we said, we now only got back 69 rows. When we did that, we're missing some information. We don't know what's missing, but we know we didn't get back 71 rows. We didn't get back 213 rows. So let's see if we can ferret out what's missing. First of all, think of this when you look at this result here. Think of, here we have on the left side, you have this table, and on the right side, you have this table. So table number 1 is on the left, table number 2 is on the right. And in our join, FB requests is on the left and FB users is on the right. So what we can do if we want to get all of the records from one table, we can use the left join syntax and we can also use the right join syntax. So if we want to make sure we get back all of the tables on the left side of the join here, we use this left join. And now we got back exactly 71 rows, which is perfect. There were 71 records in FB requests, and we used the left join syntax, which just says, give me everything from FB requests. I don't care whether it has a match in FB users. Give me everything. So what happens in the, let's look through here and see if we can find the case where the left side has a record and the right side doesn't have a record. That would explain the difference between the 69 rows and the 71 rows. Scrolling on down here, I get to 2 records at the very bottom. Kosovo and the Ivory Coast do not appear in our Facebook users data. So they're missing. I could find that out more quickly using a where syntax here, where now I will look for FB users.country is null. So we can change that and just add that in here, Oh, let me get rid of my semicolon at the end there. And now run this, and we'll get back just the cases where the country on the right side is null, where fbusers.country is null. Similarly, remember we had 213 rows on the other side. So let's see what happens when we see what's missing from what we had from the. There we go. See what we're missing here. So now if we do this right join, and we run this, we get back a join again. But now we're going to capture all 213 rows, and we can see what's missing from the left side. So we start going on down here. We can again sort of just inch our way on down until we start seeing that things are missing. Ah, here we go. So a whole bunch of countries that actually seem to have quite a few Facebook users, which have no Facebook requests at all in this data. Whether or not that's an error, or whether or not these countries genuinely never issued Facebook requests, or whether Facebook didn't report it, that's something that we would need to find out if we were doing a story on this. So just to pull them up, we can do where now FB requests.country is null, and we can just specify show me only those cases. So we get back the 144 countries where we had no information. So that's really useful for a lot of reasons. I hope it's obvious. So now we've been able to quickly just join the two tables together and look at both sides. So let's now get to what we wanted to do, which was to do the calculation to see which country in our data that we have information on had the highest rate of Facebook requests per user. So first I'm going to introduce you to a little bit of a different syntax, which you may have seen as I was going through here. I was fixing it because I wanted to make sure that you guys weren't too confused. So here I'm going to introduce it. What I do is you can alias tables by just adding a letter after the table name. This is pretty simple. So here we have the select from syntax, and we say FB requests A. So now every time we have the letter A, that's just going to refer to FB requests. It's just a shortcut. It just makes it a lot easier on your fingers, not having to type FB requests every single time. You can just type the letter A. You can type anything you want there. I could type FR for Facebook requests, or Frank, or whatever I wanted, but I'm just using A, which is sort of a common technique. And then for my next table, FB users, I'm going to alias it as B. So this is just shorthand now for what we saw above, where so A.country means FB request.country, and B.country means FB users.country. And up here, you can see I can actually, rather than selecting star like I was doing before, I can actually specify only the fields I want. So in this case, I'm doing everything from A, and then just B.FB users, because I don't need to see country again. I can also just do A.star, comma, B.FB users as well. So get the same result. Anyway, what happens when I do that? Let's see. Well, we get back much more kind of readable format here. Here's the records, and we're just using the standard join, so we get back 69 rows. So we're missing Kosovo and the Ivory Coast or whatever, but that's fine for the time being, just for our example's sake. And we get back the number of Facebook users now included in this. So this is awesome. We can now do the calculation we want to do, which I'm going to show you right here. We're going to take the number of accounts requested and divide it by the number of Facebook users in that country, and just times it by 1,000, so that we can see the number of Facebook requests per 1,000 users in the country. I'm then going to order by that value so that we can see which country has the highest rate of requests per user. So in fact, we were right in being a little skeptical that the United States is the worst. In fact, the very worst appears to be Malta, which has only 97 accounts requested, but out of a paltry 217,000 Facebook users, that's out of Perth, we got about one half of a person out of 1,000 people. So one out of every, what is that, almost just about 2,000 people have had their Facebook users in Malta have had their information requested from the government had Facebook requests from the government. The United States is still really high. It's number 2 on the list. So it's certainly not just an aberration because there's so many Facebook users here. This number is also high relative to the number of Facebook users. And then we can go on down here. We can see Italy is up there, Germany, the UK, India, France, and go on through the list. We can go all the way to the other end and just quickly see which countries almost never make requests. Kind of surprisingly, Russia apparently never makes requests, or very rarely does. The Philippines, Hong Kong, some countries you might think would be higher on the list, but this is the power of the join. We've now taken it from being just a simple sort on the number of accounts requested. We're now looking at the number of requests per 1,000 users. There's other calculations we can do with this data, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Just wanted you to get a chance to see how joining works, how you can use it quickly, and sort of the basics of it. And that's about it. So thanks, guys, for watching.